G'day. So we want to start building some interfaces with Tkinter. Before we can do that though, we have to understand some of the key concepts that go with using Tkinter. And one of those key concepts is layout managers and what they are. Let's have a look at them. Here's a simple file. Just displays a window. Reasonable size, nothing special. Just what we did last video. So the first thing we want to do is we want to add a button to this window so that the button displays. So let's add that in now. So we'll just call it click me and tk.button to add a button. And we need to give it a couple of pieces of information, a couple of arguments. So self is the first one, and then we'll put in the text argument. So we can put it text equals, and that's what it'll display on top of the button. Okay, so let's run our code and see our button. It's not showing. And that is what you have to understand when you use Tkinter. You can create objects by defining them here, but that doesn't mean they'll show, because the thing that shows an object is a layout manager, and you have to tell it to show this button before it'll actually start displaying on your form. So every time you create a widget, you're basically going to need two lines of code. One where you define the widget, and then one where you tell the layout manager to show it on the form. So to do that, we're going to start off by using the place layout manager. So we just write the name of the button, and then we put .place. Now if we do that without any arguments and run that, let's see what it does. Still not displaying. That's because place takes some coordinates. You might think of X and Y coordinates. So you can just use something like X equals, let's set it to a value of 100, and Y equals 100. So you can see in our options we've got X and Y showing there. They're just the pixels where it's going to start showing our button. Let's play that, and now we've got a button. The place layout manager is displaying the button at 100 by 100 pixels from the top left. So if you wanted to move it around, you just change those coordinates. So let's push it a bit more to the right. So let's say 200. And now the button's a bit more to the right. What happens if you pick a big number, like let's say, I don't know, 1,000? Looks like the button's gone, but it hasn't actually gone. What it's done is it has pushed it 1,000 pixels across, and there it is now. So the thing you got to remember about place is when you resize the window, the widgets don't move around. They just stay exactly where you put them. And that could be good or bad, depending upon what you wanted to do. So if you've got your button there and you maximize the window, it's still 100 by 100 pixels away. Still in the same location. Let's just add another button. So we'll just copy in that one, copy and paste that one, and make a few quick changes to it. We'll just call it click me 2 and change the text, put a 2 on the end. And then let's run it again, see what happens. We've only got one button, and it's the new one. So why is that? Well, it's because in our code, we've kept the coordinates the same. So it's just put one button on top of the other. The other one's there, it's just hiding underneath, you can't see it. So if we wanted to show both of them, we might need to change some coordinates. So if we just change it a little bit, you can see there's the other one hiding underneath. So that's the place layout manager. Just give it an X and a Y, and you can put objects on your windows pretty quickly. Next layout manager we're going to look at is called pack. And pack sort of keeps things simple and can make for some pretty quick layouts. We'll just copy and paste that code in from the previous file, but the difference is we'll change the place layout manager to pack, and we'll just have open and close parentheses there. If we run that one, now you can see we've got two buttons showing straight away. They're in the middle of the window, and one's on top of the other. And basically, if we added another button, it would show down here, another button would show down here, and they just stack on top of each other in the order that you have them in your code. What happens when we maximize our window? They stay in the middle. They've basically moved around. Unlike place, when you resize the window with the pack manager, the buttons will stay sort of in the same location, the center of the window, but not in the same coordinates. So you can move some buttons around onto the sides of the windows and the tops and the bottoms using pack. It's pretty easy to use. Doesn't have too many options. Could be a fast way to lay out your windows. But there's one more we can use. So let's just try out that last one quickly. That's the Grid Layout Manager. Grid Layout Manager is just like it sounds. It lets you lay out widgets in a grid. So this time, we'll just change pack to grid and see what that looks like. You'll see here that this time they're not in the middle anymore. They're over on the left, even though we didn't give any arguments to the grid command. But we can. If you look at what arguments we can give it a column number and we can give it a row as well. So let's do that. Let's change this second button and let's try and put it on the right hand side. So we'll leave our row at 0 because that's the first row, and we'll change our column to be 1. And now let's run that and see what happens. Whoa. Got to close that one first. And there we go. Now we've got our buttons next to each other, side by side. So you might be thinking, cool. What happens if we change it to column 2? Then we'll get a gap between the buttons. Nope. The way the grid managers work, the layout managers work, is that they don't leave space if they're empty. So in this case, there's nothing in column 1. We've got this button in column 0 and this button in column 2. So you'd think there'd be a gap, but because column 1's empty, it doesn't show. Tkinter just tries to conserve the space as much as possible. But you could do this, for example. You could have the second button in another row. And that'll look like that. So you can kind of put space in there. But for example, this button's in this column and this button's in this row, and they're in different rows and different columns. So the space is there because there's already something in those rows and columns. And that's how you use the different layout managers. You've got a choice between place, pixel perfect placements, pack, easy stacking of widgets, and grid, where you can put them in rows and columns. Pick the one you like, try it out, have a go at making some different layouts. We'll look at each of these layouts in more detail in other videos. All the links to GitHub are in the description, and you can see some of the code there. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.